Alright, ladies and gentlemen and graphic designers, we're going to do our 3D printed keychain in Autodesk Inventor. Make sure you have first completed your brainstorm sketch. It has to be done, and it has to have dimensions on it because we need to know how wide, how tall, and how thick it's going to be. Alright, go ahead and open Autodesk Inventor, get this program going, and then after you get that thing clicked, it takes forever to load, so let's get that thing loading. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find an image. Alright, so we're going to find an image for, in my case, I'm going to make a lizard keychain for my son. So I'm going to right click on this, say save image as, and we need to save it in our folder with our name on it. So I'm finding my folder with my name on it. I'm going to scroll down, I'm going to find Creative Computers, and then if you haven't done so already, make a folder called 3D Design or 3D Design Sculpture. So click to make a new folder if you haven't done so already. And then we're going to go into Keychain. And then we're going to make a folder called Assets or Keychain Assets, and we're going to save it in there with an image that makes sense, like lizard image or something. I already saved it, so I'm good. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is create and save our Autodesk Inventor project. So what we're going to do is, so we're going to make a new one. So we're going to click on the Inventor menu, and we're going to say New. And we want, you can do it if you did your measurement in inches. Do English, do an inches IPT, that stands for Inventor part. I did mine in metric, and so I'm going to do a millimeter part. So I'm going to click on this. All right, and before we do anything else, we need to save it because we don't want to do a bunch of work and lose it. So we're going to click on this. We're going to go to the up arrow, search around. So you have oftentimes you have to click around and search for it. So up, up, up until you get to your computer or you get to your folder with your name on it. And I'm going to again go into Creative Computer. We're going to go into 3D Design or 3D Design Sculpture, then go to Keychain. And don't save it in the Assets. The Assets is for pictures and that sort of thing. We're going to save it right here in Keychain, and I'm going to call this Lizard Keychain Part 1, or you can call it whatever you want. You probably ought to put your name on there. Okay. So you're not going to have this issue because I kind of started ahead of time. Okay, so we did this. So the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to create a sketch. We're going to start with a 2D sketch, and we're going to create it on this plane right here. Okay, and then I'm going to use the scrolly wheel. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do next is we're going to make some construction lines, actually a construction rectangle, and I'm going to click rectangle. Okay, and then actually I'm going to click on 2-point center. I want to center it. And so on my brainstorm sketch, I decided that my lizard keychain was going to be 65 millimeters wide. So I'm going to type in 65 tab and by 65 tab. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. And so my rectangle's in here somewhere. There it is. There's my rectangle. 65 by 65 millimeters. I'm going to dimension that and make sure. Okay, so that's 65 millimeters. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place in my image. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to find this one that's called Insert Image, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to scroll around. I'm going to go hit the up arrow, up arrow, up arrow until I find mine. There it is, Keychain Assets, and then I'm going to click on that. So I'm going to open that, and then you can see my lizard picture is too big. Okay, and so I need to shrink it down to fit. So if I were to trace it like this, it's going to be way too big and it's going to cause me problems. So I'm going to shrink this thing down to where I can get it to the right size. Okay, so if I click this and drag, you can see it wants to tilt it, but if I click it and drag, let's see if I can move it. So I'm going to get it in here, still a little too big. I'm going to click and drag until it's about the right size. There we go, and then I'm going to drag it up, make sure nope, not that way. I'm going to drag it up and fit it inside the box. Okay, so there we have it. I have that picture the right size. Okay, so now the next step, once you have the picture in and it's the right size, you're going to have to trace it. Now, this is going to be different than we did in Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to start with the spline. Okay, so you start with the spline, and this is gonna take a little effort to work with, but you click, and then you kind of click where you think it's gonna go, and you can kind of curve it if you want. Okay, and you can see you're going to have this issue with the little checkbox being in the way, so what you do is you click the middle mouse button and move your artwork, and so then you can kind of click this thing where you want. So click, and then click. Again, I have to keep moving it. It always wants to get right in my way. Click, and you just have to play with it until you figure out how to do this. And then, so in the same way as Adobe Illustrator, you can go back and you can edit your work later. Okay, so I'm not going to finish the whole thing. I'm going to pretend like I'm done. Okay, and then I want to show you this, so you can go back and you can grab the handles, and you can grab the handles and adjust your artwork. Okay, so you can see how that's affecting the line. So anyway, you can just play around with it and get it how you want, and go backwards afterwards and adjust it. So this is a Bezier curve because you have the handles and you can adjust it in the same way. Okay, so I'm going to finish this drawing, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, hours and hours and hours have gone by. Anyway, here we go. I've got my completed drawing. Okay, so I've got the drawing here, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click this button and finish the sketch. And so the next thing I'm going to do is... Actually, I'm going to rotate this around if I can. Alright, here we go. I'm happy with that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I am going to extrude my lizard. So I'm going to click on the spot I want to extrude. Actually, by the way, one thing to note is that I did not draw all the details. Do not draw all the details. Do not draw all the details. Just draw the outside, the outline, to start off with. Okay, and I decided I wanted this thing to be not 42 millimeters thick, but 4 millimeters thick. And I'm going to click OK. Alright, so now if you look, I've got my lizard is 3D. Okay? Alright, so the next thing I'm going to want to do now I'm going to go ahead and I want to draw the details on my lizard. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to say New Sketch. I'm going to draw a new sketch on the surface of this lizard. And I need to rotate him because this is weird. Okay, so I'm going to draw the details on the surface of this lizard. So again, I'm going to add a picture to it so that I can see the picture. So I'm going to add that picture. Okay, and I'm going to click, and it's way too big. Oh, that's weird. It's upside down. Okay, so again, we're going to need to shrink our picture down. So we're going to have to grab it and shrink it until it matches again. So this is going to be kind of challenging. So we're going to get it on there to match. Okay, so I've got my guy on there, and he matches pretty decently. Okay, so now I'm going to draw. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to draw these shapes on there, and I'll draw the elbow last. So let's go back to our spline, and we're gonna go ahead and trace this thing. And I'm not going to do a very good job on it because I just want to get it done. Okay, so I'm going to finish that sketch. Let's pretend like I had done all of them. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude that thing. And this one I'm going to extrude. We would have done, if we had done it right, we would have done all of them. So I'm going to do it 1 millimeter. I'm going to finish that. Okay, so and our sketch goes away. But what I want to show you is you draw the surface, you draw the base first, and then you draw the details. And then what I do is I do the same thing again. I would draw this elbow, and I'd extrude it down because maybe not. But this is the legs are supposed to be shorter than the body, so I'd probably mess around with that. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is probably take a look at making the hole in this thing. Okay, so in order to make the hole, I'm going to hit escape here. Okay, and I'm going to right click on this again. I'm going to draw a new sketch on my surface again. And for this guy, I'm going to make his eyeball. I don't know if that's kind of weird or not, but maybe we'll just make his eyeball the keychain holder. It's going to look weird. I wouldn't actually do this in real life. Okay, so I'm going to draw a circle right there. And I decided, let me dimension this thing. I'm going to add a dimension. So let's make this, we decided to make it 0.75 millimeters for a hole. I don't know if that's a good hole size actually. But at any rate, for this it'll be, you make sure you actually measure it and make the right size. Okay, so I'm going to put the hole where I think it should go, and I'm going to finish that sketch. Now on this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to extrude. It seems like the wrong thing to do, but what we're going to do is we're going to make that a cut, and we're going to make it cut all the way through, and then I finish, and then I have, you can see I have, let's see if I can rotate. At any rate, I put a hole in my lizard for a keychain. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to show you another way that you can make a loop. So that way, I just drilled a hole in. I'm going to show you how to make a loop for this thing. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to edit my first extrusion. Okay, and so on the first extrusion, instead of going one direction, I'm going to go symmetric. So it's going to go, so you can see it's going from the center both directions. Okay, and if I hit OK, it doesn't really affect anything all that much yet. Okay, but the reason I did that, well, let me show you why I did that, is because I want to do a little work over here. So what I'm going to do is if you look at the origin, I can find the different planes. So there's the XY plane, and where's this plane? So I don't want that plane. I think it's this one. All right, so I'm gonna draw some stuff on the XZ plane. So I'm gonna hit escape, and I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna say create a new sketch. Okay, so I'm going to put a loop somewhere. Where should I put a loop on this? I'll put a loop on his head, even though this is kind of going to look kind of weird, but anyway, I'm going to do it anyways. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to draw a circle. And I'm going to draw the circle right, let's zoom in here. I'm going to draw a circle right there. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a line. It could be a construction line or a regular line. I'm going to draw a line right there. Okay, and just like I said, this is going to look bad, but I want to show you the technique. So I'm going to finish that sketch. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to revolve. And what do I want to revolve? I want to revolve this profile around this axis. Okay, and I'm going to hit done. And you can see that I made a nice little loop on my, well, I don't know how nice it is, but I made a loop indeed on my keychain. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of the basics of how to do it. I think that's enough to get you guys going. Ready?